Welcome to Lead Like Her, a podcast about female leadership and how lessons from sport translate to life. My name is Violet, and I am so glad you're here today. I'm a member of the women's basketball team at Denison University, and throughout my life, sports have shaped who I am. They've taught me resilience, confidence, and the importance of having great leaders around you. But I've also learned that confidence isn't something you just have. It's something you build. And for many athletes like myself, it's an ongoing journey. That curiosity is what inspired this podcast. As part of my research on female leadership in sport, I'm sitting down with women who are leading at every level of athletics and business to learn about their experiences, the challenges they've faced, and the lessons that have shaped them as leaders. Whether you're an athlete, a coach, or someone who's simply interested in becoming a better leader, I hope these conversations leave you feeling inspired and give you something you can take into your own life. Thanks for listening, and let's get into today's conversation. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Nicole Jeter West to the Lead Like Her podcast. Nicole has spent more than 20 years building an impressive career in the sports and entertainment marketing industry. She got her start with the New York Knicks, where she worked her way up to the director of marketing. From there, she took on senior leadership roles at the United States Tennis Association, or USTA, before co-founding her own marketing and creative consulting agency, Vanguard Maven Group. She's also a member trustee of the Women's Sports Foundation. Throughout her career, Nicole has built a reputation as a creative problem solver and a leader who thrives in fast-paced, high-pressure environments. In today's conversation, we'll dive into her leadership journey, the lessons she learned along the way, and what it takes to build strong teams, lead with confidence, and make a meaningful impact in an industry that's constantly evolving. So let's get into it. Nicole, thank you so much for being on the Lead Like Her podcast today. I'm so grateful to have this time with you. You're a natural born leader, one article even referenced. What qualities did you have as a young person that hinted at the leader that you'd become?
It's a great question. First, thanks for having me.
Of course.
And super excited to be part of what you're doing here. I don't know if anyone's asked me that question just that way. So I think growing up, I don't think I would say like I thought I was a leader. I think I always had a passion for hearing and listening and helping, like wanting to hear what other people were doing or going through, trying to be somebody who was a good listener and like a good friend, and always wanting to help. Like, how can I help? What can I do? And so I think in that, there's some like, service and humility that comes with it. And I actually think those are some of the best qualities of a great leader. Wow. And so I've always tried to position myself as being more of a servant leader and somebody who is there to help serve the team, the organization, whatever the mission is, versus about like me, look at me, I'm a leader. So that's how I would describe sort of my youth and involvement there. And then I was active in every sport there was. And so I believe in the power of sport. I believe in the power of girls playing sport, and that impact definitely helped shape my leadership skills.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I actually have a sticker on the back of my computer that says, "Girls who play sports become women who lead." And I truly believe in that mission.
What we say at the Women's Sports Foundation. I love it.
Exactly. And like, it goes back to what you said is I think having service and having humility is so important. And I think you learn a lot about that in sports, 100%. So kind of just going off of that, you say service and humility is like one of the best qualities about being a leader. And you're a business executive. You've done marketing and you co-founded Vanguard Maven Group. Like, how do you represent those qualities on the day-to-day?
I mean, I think on a day-to-day basis, it's through your action. It's how you engage with, right now, being one of the co-founders of Vanguard Maven Group, it's how we engage with our clients, but it's also how we engage with our own team and our staff, how I engage with my fellow co-founders, and really how we think about sort of being thoughtful at the opportunities that we have. And so I never take any opportunity for granted. If we have the fortune and the ability to sort of win projects or work with clients, and we have some of the best clients, it is not sort of lost on me that these are not experiences that everyone gets. It's not an opportunity that everyone has the ability to sort of partake in. And so I take that with a lot of humility and try to sort of just be very grateful. It comes with hard work. It comes with, putting in the effort and not being outworked by others, but at the same time, not getting so puffed up that you think it's all on your own. So being very cognizant that it is a team effort. It requires a lot of effort and work from more than just one person to make any of this work. So that's probably where I see it happening on a day-to-day basis.
So you're a co-founder with two other co-founders, correct?
Yes, Danita Randolph and Jaden Randolph are my other co-founders.
You've created this business with two other women, and you have to you are the leader in that. Obviously you have two other co-founders, but how do you create a buy-in to the rest of the staff, to the rest of the employees, or your clients essentially? How do you create that buy-in factor? Like, you want to be here in this company.
You know what? It's by our actions. Like, we walk the walk, we talk the talk. And so my fellow co-founders and I approach our business very much as, if you are part of Vanguard Maven Group and you're working with us on our team, or if you're a client, we have like some basic things that just are who we are and how we operate. Like, we're very transparent. We don't hold back. We don't pull any punches. Like, if we believe in something, if we think something, we're going to say it. We're going to say it probably in a bold way to make sure that you understand like the passion behind it. We're also, very thoughtful in that we don't believe in sort of doing cookie cutter approach. And so we make sure that everybody who's on the team is like, it's not okay to just try and go and rinse and repeat and do the same thing that we've done for some other client or do the same thing we've done somewhere else and just try to apply it. Like, we want to push people to really to get to their best self, right? Like, this sort of like, what is your personal genius zone? What is the space in which you are like, I am operating at my best? And our job, I believe, is really to help create the environment for that. And when we do that, you get to see the team shine, right? And you get to like give people opportunities to shine in new ways. That's really like what makes me most excited about the work we do, is being able to help other people be in a position to like showcase their talents and shine.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm just curious, Vanguard Maven Group, it's a marketing and consulting agency that you've created. And I think in our society today, especially with AI, you have to be different. Exactly what you said, not doing the cookie cutter approach. How do you still exert the creative energy and come up with new solutions when we have AI, when we have all of the other agencies that you're competing with? How do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah. I mean, one, we focus on being great in the areas that we really like believe in and know that we have the expertise in. And so other agencies may be sort of like a one-stop shop for everything. Vanguard Maven Group is not that. We are really great at focusing in on three key areas. So we're great at strategy, and helping to develop strategic campaigns and strategic platforms. So strategy is a core pillar for us. Our other pillar is around brand storytelling and being able to help with like a brand narrative. And that can be B2B, B2C, but helping people to be able to like really express their brand stories in a way that connects to their fans or consumers or to their future clients. And then the third for us is our IP studio. And so we have an intellectual property studio in which we create IP, or we will co-create with partners to really develop something that can help create new revenue, new engagement platforms. And that's a big differentiator for us. And so in our efforts, we have to stay creative. We have to stay curious. I think that's something that is really missing in the world right now, because it becomes so easy to just press the button, ask AI, do this. But if you're not being curious about people, cultures, how they interact, how humans actually feel and interact, and what that like actual connection is to a brand, to an experience, to a sporting event. Those are the things that we stay super curious about. But not even just in that world. We like to look beyond that world, because humans are not sort of monolithic, right? Like everybody is different in how you interact and operate, and we're all multifaceted, right? We've got lots of layers to us. So I could be a sports fan, but I could also be a fashionista, or I could be a sports fan and I could also say I love watching the opera. Who knows, right? But if I don't take enough time to be curious and understand, I'll miss a lot of the opportunities. And I think a big way for us to do that is we really pride ourselves on asking really great questions. And if you ask really great questions and you have the ability to sort of take time and listen to those answers, usually you'll get the answers to the test. And, that's where the curiosity comes in, and you can lean in and get really creative at saying, okay, well, if I've heard you right and I asked the right questions, then I should understand and know what's the gap, what's missing, or where the opportunity is.
Yeah, I think asking good questions is not talked about enough. I think especially with my generation, sometimes I think people are scared to ask questions, whether that's in class or whether that's during practice. And, it can be for multiple reasons, but I think being able to ask questions and not be scared to admit that you don't know is actually a sign that that you are mature, that you do care enough to try to find the answers.
Yeah.
And, just
it's a sign of strength, right? It's an opportunity to say, I don't know everything. And if I ever get to a place that I think I know everything, there's a lot wrong. So I'm curious. I ask questions all the time. I'm a constant learner, because I never want to feel like I've somehow achieved and understand everything, because it's just not possible.
I think your humility, just, the 12 minutes that we've been talking so far is very apparent. And, one of the reasons why I think you're so successful, one of the reasons why you've been in the sports and entertainment industry for 20 years or so now. I mean, it's just incredible. And I think a lot of people need more humility. So
Thank
kudos
you.
to
I
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So sports seem to run in your family.
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah. How much did your upbringing and family environment influence your decision to build a career in this industry?
It's funny. I would say I grew up playing every sport there was. And that was just sort of in my generation, that's kind of what you did. It wasn't specialized. And so I think, I challenge a lot of the sort of specialized sports approach that happens today, because I think you miss out on a lot of learnings and just like growth that comes with sort of playing different sports, and also friendships that happen across various sports. And so whatever season it was, that was the sport I was playing. And so volleyball, softball, basketball, whatever it was, shot put, discus, like did all of it. And in that, I learned all of the skills that everybody, will talk about when you talk about playing sport. And it's the resilience, it's the teamwork, it is the healthy competition, right? It's understanding that you're not going to always win, and that's okay. And you still get up and you still go up to bat, or you still get up and you still try again. It's also that not everybody gets a medal. And so all of those things impacted, like we said, my leadership and my growth in just as a person. But I actually didn't know there was a business side to the sports world until after I graduated college and I was interviewing for jobs in ad agencies, and I really wanted to go work in the ad agency world. And a friend of mine was actually at that time working for the New York Knicks in their front office. And that's kind of was my first glimpse at the fact that there's business side to the sports world. And almost anything you could think of in a business sense, as far as a discipline, can be applied to the world of sports. And so that was kind of cool because I was like, I love sports, right? Like there's such a passion. I'm a fan, but also I was an athlete. And so if I could have the opportunity to do marketing in the sports world, like that's just nirvana, right? So I had no idea at first. And then once it was unlocked to me, I was like, and then I realized my biggest passion was the business of sport. And it didn't matter what the sport was to me. And I learned that when I went from sort of being in the basketball world and working for the New York Knicks, World Championship New York Knicks. And so when I was working with them, and then later in my career shifting to the USTA and working in the tennis world, and maybe not knowing as much about tennis at that time, but realizing that the business side of the sport was still the same and I could still apply a lot of learnings, and I still needed to learn some things that were sort of specific to that sport. But fandom and partnerships and generating revenue and engaging fans, like all of those things still applied. And so I really got excited about the business side of sport.
So you've worked at different sports, like you said, tennis, the New York Knicks. You started your own business. And I can't help but notice your sign in the background that says, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. How do you, maintain the willingness to try to move up, get to the next best place, better yourself? How do you not get complacent with the amazing roles that you've had?
I've never been focused on title, and even was never really a big person who was focused on salary. Probably hurt myself in some cases at some point, but it was always about just doing great work. I was somebody who enjoyed working with a team, who enjoyed being at the strategic phase of something and creating something out of nothing and then actually bringing it to fruition and executing against it. I get great joy out of that. And so for me, it was about the work. And once I realized that, like, if you put all your passion, your energy, and your focus around doing great work, and you have an ability to help other people do that in their area or come alongside or be part of what you're doing, then that is something that others will see and pay attention to and watch, right? And that may be somebody who's your peer, or it may be somebody who's your manager or supervisor or whatever it is in that situation, but that people are watching and paying attention. And so I didn't need to be somebody who was sort of beating my chest and going, look at me, or, hey, I need to get that next title. I need to get that next promotion. I was fortunate in that I put my head down, I did the work, and then the doors opened. And it came with a lot of, other people being advocates, other people sort of seeing the work and not sort of trying to just gloss over, but being supportive and helping me through that process. And so for me, I think a lot of that effort and work is what resulted in sort of the leadership and promotion opportunities along the way. And for that, I'm super grateful. And I don't take any of it for granted, because I also know that it could all go away tomorrow, right? Like, I'm very clear about the fact that, like, your work and your effort needs to be continuous, because if I kind of slack or slow down or kind of just say like, I've done it. I don't need to put in the extra effort, or I don't need to put in the extra work. Somebody out there is. And that's the true competition of sport, right? Like if I decide I'm not going to practice, somebody else did go to practice today. And so that means they got that much better than I am. And so I got to continually put in my reps. And for me, like putting in those reps is being curious, doing the work, staying, like learning, being humble, being willing to learn from others. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I want people around me who are able to help me grow, right? And I want to be able to help others grow. But that to me is sort of how you make sure you don't stay complacent.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, what you just said, I don't want to be the smartest in the room. I think it goes for any single aspect of your life. I hear this thing all the time. You're the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So if you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people who are driven like you, who ask questions, who are curious,
yeah,
you will then do the same.
Mm-hmm. Iron sharpens iron.
What do you say?
Iron sharpens iron, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to be around people who are striving for greatness.
Yeah, exactly. And then what you said about if you're not working, someone else is working harder. I think the number one thing confidence comes from is through preparation, knowing that you did the work, knowing that you put in the hours, or, you're asking questions, talking to people, like you were doing the work to get yourself to that place. That should give you the confidence already. But like for me, I get extra shots made in the gym. I do the extra stuff and I still struggle with confidence. So it's not something that just happens once and you're done. It's a continuous process, exactly what you said.
It's a life learned skill. You got to keep putting in the work.
Yeah, 100%. So your company describes itself as a team of mavens in sports, entertainment, and culture. What does being a maven mean to you, and why was that word important enough to include it in your company's identity?
Yeah. A maven is someone who is sort of has an expertise, somebody who is really sort of very specific about how they like approach and look at the world, and that they try to sort of do that in a way that's not influenced by everyone else, but that is, really their perspective and their point of view. And that being a maven is like you're one of one, or you're trying to do the thing that maybe someone else hasn't done yet. And so and then the vanguard part of our name is just as important, because being a vanguard is you're leading, you're not following. You're out, you're out there, and it may look completely different than everybody else, and that is okay, right? Because you are sort of setting what the standard is. And so we pick that not just for that to be sort of a personal thing, but also for how we approach our clients and how we look at the projects and the business that we do for them. Is we don't want to give you cookie cutter. We don't want to be the same old, same old. We want you to feel like you're leading, not following. And so that takes a boldness. So yeah. So that's some of the origin of the name.
I like that name. I really do. And I think, when you're going to work every day or your clients see that, it, sparks a little curiosity. And then when you learn about like what it means, it's like, all right, they live by it. They live by it every single day.
We try.
Yeah. I mean, no one's perfect, but
yeah,
it's the fact that you're showing up. So that matters. And, like showing up, I think is one step to getting better, gaining more confidence. And I think as women, we struggle a lot with confidence, especially in their careers. So I'm just curious, how have you developed confidence over time, especially in a room where, maybe you've been the only woman or person of color?
Mm-hmm. That's happened a few times, probably more times than I could count. But I think what I've learned over the years, and I say learned in that this was not when I was your age, that this is not sort of what I would say my thinking was then. But pretty early in my career, I did sort of realize that I had a voice and I had value, and that value was unique and different to others. And it's not just because I'm a person who is of Puerto Rican and Black descent. It's not just because I was a woman. It's not just because, I went to the University of Delaware. Like, it's actually a combination and compilation of all of those things that make me unique. Just as the same as for you, right, Violet? And so it's all of those uniqueness components that come together to make you who you are. Oftentimes, when we get into business and get into spaces where we're supposed to sort of show up, we think the opposite and we go, oh, let me shrink. Let me take all of those things and try to make them more homogenous. Let me try to just blend in. What I realized when I was sitting in rooms early days and looking around the table and seeing a lot of people who all looked the same or who were all of the same gender, and they were talking about fans and they were talking about the sport, and I was like, how could I just sit there and not allow my voice to be shared? Because there's a value to the experience that I have that is very different than everyone else around the table. And there's value to a perspective that I might have that is very different than everyone else in the room. And then put on top of that, over the years, my experience and the things that I've been able to learn and the way I've been able to hone my craft and my skills, add all of that together. And that's what makes you a one of one. And that's not just me, that's everybody. But you have to really own and know your value. And once you do that, then you realize your voice has real power and that your voice matters. And that doesn't mean you have to be the one who's the loudest in the room. It doesn't mean that you have to be the one who's always talking or talking over. But it does mean that when you see the opportunity to add value or to say something that is going to help the process, the meeting, whatever it is, that you do it. And you don't shrink back and you don't try to make yourself sound like someone else, or you don't try to sort of borrow somebody else's identity to do it. But you are authentically yourself and you're like, yeah, here's what I think, because I grew up in, Leonia, New Jersey, and I went to this school and I have this opinion, and this is what happens in my family on the weekends. And this is where my culture is from. And this is what we do. And you know what? There's fans who are just like me, or there are fans who have similar experiences. And so it's a value for you to understand that. And I think that's the part of it where we've kind of gotten it all jumbled up around sort of like diversity. It's diversity of thought. It's diversity of experiences. It's diversity of backgrounds. It's diversity of culture. It's all of those things that help to make any company better, help to make any experience better. And that's only because you are a reflection of the people you serve. And the people you serve can be your fans at a game. The people you could serve can be consumers going into your store. But if you can be a reflection of them, then they can connect with you. And so that means you need a lot of voices. You need a Violet and you need a Nicole, right? And like 30 other people that we don't know, because that's going to be able to reflect and be a better experience and a more holistic experience for everybody.
So with that diversity of thought background, that comes conflict. Like, I'm thinking about my experiences at Denison. I have found it very hard for me to sometimes say what I think in a room of people who probably won't agree with me. So how do you handle conflict when you're in a room with people with competing ideas? How do you still make your voice heard, even when it can be scary? I think this is like helpful for all athletes or people or, everyone in general.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people feel like the way that you get your voice to be heard is to yell louder or to, take up the most oxygen in the room. So talk the most. And that's not the case. The way to make sure that you're heard or that your opinion or thought is heard is to actually first listen. Listen to the other people in the room. Listen to not just the words, but to the emotion, to the energy behind what they're saying, to maybe some underlining reason why they feel or think the thing that they feel or think. And then once you listen and you've really heard that, try to take a step back and think about, okay, maybe my opinion differs, but can I see the perspective or point of view of the other person? And can I also think, even though that's not my perspective or point of view, there may be other people who have a similar perspective or point of view, right? And so I can't just go in there with sort of the bulldozer mentality and be like, I'm going to force you to see and understand why my way is the right way and yours is the wrong way. Like that is the exact opposite approach of how you get someone to want to come along with you or to not always agree. I had a really great colleague of mine, Eric Sudal, shout out Eric, who would always say aligned. And what I loved about the word, and I use it, is that it doesn't mean that we have to agree, but it means that we're aligning and we're moving forward. And so we would have conversations or we'd be working on projects together. And he always would say aligned, right? At the end of it. And I was like, okay, so do you agree with me or are you just saying, and he's like, no, what I'm saying is I've heard your side, I've heard my side, and we're going to move forward and I'm aligned in that. And I'm going to then go do whatever I can do to make sure that this is successful because we are aligned. And so I think a lot of people would benefit from sort of just approaching business situations, personal situations with just this thought of okay, you might be here and that's your opinion and I might be here and that's my opinion. However, we've got a task to do. We've got a job to accomplish. And there's more than one way to do that, right? We can agree on that, but we've got to agree on what's the approach we're going to take so that we can actually move forward. And so let's find alignment and then let's move forward. And so, yeah, I have taken that and used that throughout my life and career because it helps me to remember, I don't have to be right. The other person doesn't have to be right, or it doesn't have to be my way of doing it or their way of doing it, but we've got to move this forward and get it done. And so let's align, right? And so that means concession. That means somebody's going to give a little here or there, but ultimately we're going to find a way to move forward.
Yeah, I really like that. I haven't heard of the word align before, but I think I'm definitely going to start using it, especially on the basketball court.
Yeah, alignment, aligned. Those are sort of, it's just this idea that you're like, okay, we're going to come together and we're going to move forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think for a lot of young female athletes or even young coaches, maybe it's not that they don't have different opinions, but it's the problem of them not saying it or not speaking up. So I think, it's exactly what you said, Nicole, is saying your opinion, using your voice. However, understanding the fact that maybe someone has a different voice and a different opinion, but you're aligning together to try to get there. But it's, you can't just say it and then not do anything about it. It's exactly what you said. It's finding the approach that people both agree on to move forward.
Yeah. So. And being willing to also realize that maybe your original opinion or thought could be changed. And that you might realize that someone else's opinion, thought, or approach might be a better approach. And so again, that humility comes in because if you're just focused on the work and getting the thing done and making sure it's great, then it doesn't have to be your idea.
Yeah. And I think that's where listening comes into play too. Not thinking or not listening to say your answer, but listening to actually try to understand, oh, what's the best way to go about this? What are they thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've worked in the business industry for 20 years. You have a wide variety of experiences. What is the biggest professional risk that you've ever taken? And what did it teach you about you and yourself and your life?
Oh my. The biggest risk professionally that I've taken. I think my whole career has been a risk. Someone once said to me when they were interviewing me that they were like, "Oh wow, you've had a lot of detours in your career." And I was like, "That's interesting. I've never thought about my career as having detours. I look at it as more as like, you know, a door was opened and a door was closed, and I was fortunate enough to go through the door when it opened and know when the door was closed that I wasn't supposed to go through that door." And I attribute that to sort of like my faith and being very connected to knowing sort of what is for me is for me. Risk that maybe I could point out. I mean, right now someone would say you sort of left corporate and the safety of working for a company and you decided to be an entrepreneur and start Vanguard Maven Group at a part in my career where I could probably be somewhere else with the big title and big salary and, sort of doing that in a way that maybe feels more safe. I don't know that there's safety anywhere in careers right now. So I don't know how much that feels like a risk. I think if I was to look back, maybe not so recent, I would say my time at the USTA when I was in a more traditional marketing role and I was running all of pro tennis marketing, and I was asked to start up a new group. So create another sort of group called the Digital Partnerships Group. And there was nothing there. There was no team. There was no playbook. There was just this idea that they wanted to generate revenue through digital, and they wanted to have somebody who would lead that team. And that was scary for me because I went from being on one side of the P&L, which was the set spending side in the marketing world, right, to actually then being responsible for my P&L and having to generate revenue. And I saw that as being a sales role. And I was like, I am not a salesperson. And at that time, Lou Shear was the CRO of the USTA, who was an advocate and friend of mine, and was my boss at the time, and said, you can do this, right? And I was like, there's 20 million reasons in my head why I can't do this. And I actually turned down the job more than once. And it was my husband who ultimately said to me, "What are you afraid of?" And if you know me, that was like sort of all I needed to be like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. And so I went ahead and did that. But I was afraid. It was new. It was different. It was out of my comfort zone. But I will tell you that risk, or what would have felt like a major risk at that time for me from a career perspective, was the biggest launch pad for me. It took me to a completely different space in my career. It opened up new doors. I was no longer just a marketer in that I was on this side of the house and I just knew how to create and spend money, but I actually knew how to then generate. And I knew how to build a team from scratch. And I could work with brand partners and help them to achieve their objectives and goals. And that then took me into a space that prepared me for, a career with Legends as their CMO and helping new business development of like complete verticals for businesses, and then going on from there. But yeah, that biggest risk also ended up being one of the biggest launch pads and catalyst in my career.
Yeah. And I'm sure that was scary too. I've heard this thing before. It's like, okay, if you're scared to do something and you're fearful, that should give you like an extra push to do that thing because it's scary. And you know what? If it pays off, it's going to pay off eventually. But if it doesn't work out, there's always something always something that you can learn from every single situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
So to kind of wrap it off, what's one leadership lesson you wish every young woman could learn earlier?
You matter. You matter. In this like crazy world of people sort of trying to marginalize young women and young girls, if you can know anything early on, is that you matter. And that means it seems like the most simple thing, but it actually means so much. And you matter means you matter in work, you matter in life, you matter to your family, you matter to your friends, your voice matters, your experiences, your background, what makes you who you are matter. And so that would be the one thing. If you ask me like what would make a difference or an impact or shift maybe how somebody's trajectory is, the earlier that you realize that you matter.
I love that. Yeah, I can't agree more. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for being on the Lead Like Her podcast today. Thank you for taking the time and sharing all of your incredible experiences that you have had. I mean, you surely are an incredible leader, and anyone would be fortunate to work with you, work for you, and, be a part of your life. So really appreciate you taking the time.
You're super kind, Violet. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for what you're doing.
As we wrap up this conversation with Nicole Jeter West, I think one thing really stands out. Leadership isn't just about the position you hold. It's about how you show up for the people around you. I loved hearing Nicole talk about the importance of staying curious, leading with humility, and creating space for different voices and perspectives. Now, one of my biggest takeaways was that confidence isn't just something that you're born with. It's something that you build over time by trusting yourself and continuing to learn and grow. I'm so grateful that Nicole could share her story and her perspective. I hope this conversation leaves you feeling encouraged to lean into your own experiences, keep asking questions, and lead with authenticity wherever you are at. Thanks so much for listening to Lead Like Her. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow and share it with someone who could use this message. And I'll see you in the next episode.